Happy Monday evening. We're going to look at an article by Business Insider. It was published in 2024. The author is Noah Scheidlauer. The Business Insider article is titled, "A Gen Xer with an MBA Can't Get a Job Despite Over 1,500 Job Applications." He said his degrees have been useless. Here we go. Quinoas, a father of four who lives in a rural part of eastern Pennsylvania, said he struggled to land a long-term job in tech or counseling. He has held part-time positions and built his own inventory software to sell to companies, though he rarely gets interviews, even after redoing his resume 24 times. Quote, "I wish there was an easier way, but traditional ways of looking for employment have been overshadowed by artificial intelligence and lack of human interaction," Quinones said, noting his applications are likely thrown out due to his lack of recent work experience. Quinones is one of many Americans with traditional work credentials who can't land a decent paying, stable job. This comes at a time when getting a college degree is much more necessary to landing a well-paying job. Quinones shared his difficulties with securing work, as well as some reasons he may be falling through the cracks. Now then, really quickly, before I continue on, if you did not see the upload that I did earlier today, I will be attaching that at the end. It is titled, "Her $500,000 Private School Degree." It's a series of TikToks, and I focused on that one as well. So go ahead and make sure at the end, don't go now, but when we get done, then you are excused to go and do that one. All right. Also, really quickly, I will have the description. In the description box, I will put down where this article is from so you can read it without interruptions if you wish. All right. Here we go. A rocky but successful start. Quinones said he had a difficult upbringing with an abusive stepfather. He lived in various youth shelters and dropped out of school in 7th grade. And he had his first child shortly after entering a transitional independent living facility at 18. At that point in my life, I was trying to change everything and become better because I knew that I would be a father, Quinones said. I started taking things more seriously and tried to figure out what to do with my life. He became interested in computers and found side jobs helping the Salvation Army and other businesses fix their technology. Without a high school diploma, he got a job as the head technician for a computer company in Arizona, then landed a role at Intel in 1999. He worked there as an IT manager for a year before getting laid off. So it sounds like he had a rough, beginning, okay, growing up years, but then it sounds like in spite of not having a college diploma, he's slowly starting to work his way into some sort of field dealing with computers. Feeling behind his peers because he didn't have a college degree, he enrolled at a community college in 2002 where he got his associate degree in computer programming. He moved with his wife and children to Arizona to be closer to his wife's family. Still, he said the job market in Arizona was extremely difficult. He recalled walking from company to company with resumes in hand, which resulted in some job offers. However, he wanted to progress his career, so he enrolled in an MBA program in technology management. He secured a job in New Jersey as the chief technology officer for an import and export company. However, in 2010, 2 years into his job, he faced a challenging family situation that cost him his job, which he said was extremely difficult to recover from. Sounds like, I don't know if there were misdeeds going on, but when someone says it cost you your job, that sounds like it wasn't a layoff and he was fired, probably for reasons that should not be discussed. All right, next section, can't find a job. Since then, he said he struggled to find anything relevant to his skill set and hasn't landed anything beyond a first round interview for IT roles. I do wonder actually how if IT slowly is going to be replaced by AI. Now, remember, this article that we're reading from Business Insider is just last year, it was 2024, okay? But I sometimes wonder, if IT roles, like if you're going to work in IT, you need to have something to do with AI. Support and maintenance. He recalled putting up Facebook posts in the early 2010s searching for work only to be met with negative comments. I've walked into local businesses to start talking about work, and I'm told that I would not be happy working there because it is not part of my high-skilled profession. This is even after not including my education, not to become overqualified. So what he's apparently doing is he's leaving out his education on his resume. And, guys, if you think about it, all right, it's kind of like you spend all this money to go get the education. Then you find out you're overqualified. And because you get so desperate, you need a job, you need anything, you have bills to pay. I get it. Okay. I'd be in the same boat. So then you have to take off the very thing you went to go get to help secure you a good job and future and all of that. It's almost like it's really kind of a no-win game. It seems like it's kind of like a double-edged sword. He says, Quinona says he struggled with alcoholism, but stopped drinking 8 years ago. You know what that makes me wonder now? I'm not going to shift the screen around because I don't like to move the screen around too much for you guys because I know it makes people dizzy when the screen moves. So I am very aware of that. You know what I wonder when it said something cost him his job? Remember just about a paragraph or so ago? He said he had some personal struggles, cost him his job. Alcoholism would cost you your job. I am not saying that is the reason he got dismissed from the company because we don't know. But if you are an alcoholic, okay, and you're having problems, clearly that could be a reason for an employer to say, you can't work here anymore. But I am not implying that that's the reason he was let go, as we don't actually know. Okay. So he says he struggled with alcoholism. He began bodybuilding as his therapy. Thank you. Yes. Bodybuilding as therapy. As you know, I am a weightlifter. Okay. And he took part-time positions just to stay afloat. He created an inventory management software program. Additionally, he became, I just switched the screen. Everybody hold on. There we go. Additionally, he printed images with stickers, shirts, and bottles for side income. And he drove for Uber. So he's apparently doing all these little side gigs, including Ubering. Does anyone not do Uber or Lyft for a side gig? Keep in mind also, guys, when you do that, keep in mind with the wear and tear it's doing to your car. You got to factor that in, okay? Just something to think about, all right? So it sounds like he did a lot of extra side work. All right, continuing on. He said his wife works remotely as a sales supervisor for a company in Arizona, which has kept his family of 6 afloat. 4 people. He's a Gen Xer. So believe it or not, that's like my, he and I are the same age, but we're close to the same age. We're Gen X. So my parents having 4 kids, and it wasn't a big deal. Today, if you're a millennial, definitely if you're a Gen Z trying to have 4 kids, got to make sure you have some deep pockets there, okay? In 2015, desperate for job security, he enrolled in a master's program in family and marriage counseling as a backup plan, though he ran out of financial aid with 4 classes left and dropped out. Geez. So he's one of those people paying on student loans for a degree he does not have yet. Okay, that was in 2015. A few years later, when he considered returning, meaning returning to school, he was told only half his classes counted because of a curriculum change. That should be outlawed. That half of your class, you have, we changed the curriculum, so your classes aren't good anymore. That's as frustrating as anyone who's ever been to college and knows about textbooks. They change one thing in the textbook, one thing, one paragraph. All right. It's a new edition and you have to go by the new edition because they won't take it from any other way. To me, it's strictly for money. That's just how I feel about it. Unless it is adding something that is a technological necessary upgrade, like, hey, we have a new procedure on how to do such and such, and it's significant. And what's always amazed me is I've thought to myself, when you go buy the new edition book, isn't it something they could potentially, usually it's just a few pages, couldn't they just print that out at a copy center or something like that and just hand you the little supplement? But no, they won't do that. They make you go buy the whole book. Because they also, remember this, they don't want you to go to the bookstore or not necessarily the bookstore, but those discount, share and trade your textbooks. Okay. They want to make that as null and void as possible. I am speaking the truth. Okay. So he enrolled in a master's program. So he goes to school and a few years later, he comes back and the classes don't count. Okay. He received advice from career counselors. We all know where this is going to go. Okay. He received advice from career counselors to, quote, finish my master's degree in counseling, which is not easy because of the cost. Quinona said, noting he had to pause any further education while recovering from surgery. He added that hiring managers would not give me a chance, even though I had 3 years of education. Is he forgetting something? And we are being kind and sensitive because I'm a Gen X also. Okay. Yes. He's in his 50s. Do I feel like I'm going to be 58 next month? Some days I do and some days I don't. Today, pretty good day. Okay. Other than my arthritic knees. All right. But there is something that we need to be honest about. Guys, the older you get, okay, you're competing with people who are younger and younger and younger than you. As my mother once told me when her doctor was half her age. Oh, okay. So he's still in touch with career coaches from his previous universities, and they've offered workshops, resume, and cover letter reviews. Okay, that's great. That's great. We can offer you workshops, resumes, cover letters. The problem is it doesn't fix what you need, and that is you need a job. And I think a lot of the problems today with resumes, and they kind of alluded to it earlier, and that is, guys, they're looked at by computers. They're looked at by computers, and I don't know. I'll tell you this: being 58, I can't imagine trying to job search. Okay, trying to get a job today with the AI being the one that looks at your resume. This is why it needs to be word of mouth. Guys, you need to make as many personal connections as possible. Schmooze, wine, dine, tit for tat, whatever. Lawfully, of course. Let's do it on the legal end, okay? But I'm just going to go to monster.com. Is monster.com even used anymore? I don't even know if you guys know what monster.com is, okay? But it's a resume place, okay? Resume service online. I'm going to go to monster.com and drop off my resume. It's going to go into the wide beyond, and no one's ever going to see it again. Really, I think now more than ever, folks, you've got to talk to people. Got to use those speaking skills and self-promote. And it's hard to do that. It is. For some people, self-promotion is very hard. I understand it. Okay. It can be. It can be very hard. All right. And here's the other problem. Self-promotion to some extent is a skill. It's verbal skills. And what is something? I'm not picking on the Gen Zs or the alphas coming up, okay? But there is, I believe, a lack of social skills. That eye contact, looking at you in the eye, letting you know that I hear you and that I'm interested in what you have to say. And when I write you a letter, I write the word A-R-E and not the letter R. In other words, these are skills. I'm going to brag for a minute, but I think Gen X and earlier, we were taught those skills. Okay. But I think for a lot of younger people trying to find a job now, you're trying to use skills that you learned on TikTok and that you learned writing text messages, for 18 years of your life. You see? So trying to find a job. God bless the people who are trying to do it today. Let's see here. So he goes to see advice from career counselors. Okay. He's in touch with his coaches. Hey, you guys know this is casual. All right. This is not a stuffy channel, not at all. Okay. Why landing a job is so difficult. In total, Quinona said he's applied for about 1,500 jobs unsuccessfully, getting 5 to 10 rejections a day this year. Oh, help me, Lord. 5 to 10 rejections a day. Oh my gosh. Screenshot shared with Business Insider. He's redone his resume over 25 times. I don't have 25 different versions of myself to tell you. Does anybody have 25 different versions? I don't. So he's redone his resume 25 times, spending $300 for a professionally created one that yielded 0 interviews. You know what I think part of the problem is, just from what I'm seeing here? Okay, he's done his resume 25 times. Can there come a point where you're just doing it over and over and over again that it becomes mindless and the resume no longer has focus? I got to be honest. And again, I am aware that, I've been out of the job hunting force. Okay. I'm entering my 20th year of teaching, but I do believe, and I tell this kids with writing. Okay. And resumes writing, that's what it is. I tell this with my students with writing. Sometimes you need to stop at the second, third draft. Not always. Sometimes we need to keep going. But there are times, we need to just stop. Because if you keep pushing it over and over again, each subsequent one actually gets worse and worse and worse. Until after a while, you forgot what you were writing about, and what you're writing about makes no sense. So I'm going to be honest. The fact that he's written 25 resumes, that right there to me, okay, as someone who was taught writing for 19 years, something is off. And I'm not saying it's his fault, okay? But it may be the advice he's getting about to keep writing this resume. That tells me that you actually have no focus when you're writing it that many times. Please feel free to disagree with me in the comments, or perhaps point out something that I have not observed. Okay. By all means, we are here to learn and share with each other. Okay. Just to me, that's an exorbitant amount of resumes to be writing. Like I said, I don't have 25 different versions of myself I could tell you. I genuinely don't. Okay, so he's done it. He's redone his resume 25 times. He spent $300 for professional services. All right. There's also the matter of where Quinones's degrees are from. Oh, here we go. Let me roll this up. Okay. His undergraduate studies were completed at American Intercontinental University, a for-profit school whose accreditation has come into question. Have you ever heard of that? American Intercontinental University? That almost sounds like a fly-by-night school. Okay. First of all, you're a university, and I don't know a university that starts with the word American. I just don't. Okay. To someone who's been raised in academia, American Intercontinental University for me would raise bing, 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 bing. Okay. Bells right off the bat that this doesn't sound like a mainstream school. So apparently that school's accreditation is coming to question. If he has any student loan debt, and I don't think they discussed that in this article. Okay, but I'm willing to bet he does. All right. But if he does, and that school is becomes unaccredited, he should, I hope, get his money back. I don't know. Meanwhile, he's got his MBA through the University of Phoenix, an online program. All right, everybody stop. This is where I got my master's degree in organizational management, was at the University of Phoenix. And the University of Phoenix has been up and down in its accreditation. I will tell you, I loved my instructors, though. I have to be totally honest. I think oftentimes it's not the fault. It's not the instructors. It's the people at the top who are building the curriculum and all of that. The instructors are being taught, hey, we teach this, okay? But the University of Phoenix is where I went. And like I said, I'll be honest, it has up and down, for accreditation. Well, it's still accredited. It's just reputation wise. I'm glad my master's in English is at the University of South Florida. I feel much better with that. So basically what he has here, remember, he's applied for 1,500 jobs and he can't find work. So he's got here two master degrees. Okay, excuse me, he has an undergraduate and a master's degree, both from schools that are somewhat questionable. And like I said, I went to the University of Phoenix myself. By the way, University of Phoenix has held its accreditation after it got through that horrible slime of a mess about classes, and they had to refund a bunch of people and stuff. Okay. Quinones said he's in a middle ground. He's overqualified for many entry-level positions, but underqualified for jobs in his field. He acknowledged that hiring expectations have skyrocketed over the past few years. He even tried removing some educational background on his application to seem less qualified to no avail. All right, let's stop here for a minute. Let's look at this phrase right here. He's in a middle ground. He's overqualified for many entry-level positions, but underqualified for his job in his field. Here is the problem, okay? He has not actually worked in his field yet, from what I can tell. Okay. It's like he's dabbled in the field, and the positions that he's held, if they were semi-professional, from what I can tell, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. All right. But from what I can tell, he's not held a bona fide, full-time, successfully for a few years job in this field of study. He's not done that. And how old is he? That's right. He's in his 50s, probably mid to late 50s. That's a problem. We like to sit and we like to tell people, oh, it doesn't matter what age you are when you go to school. Follow your dreams. At this point, I would say, no, that's probably not a good idea. Sometimes we have to understand that maybe a dream that we wanted in this life is best reserved for the next life, so we don't financially bankrupt ourselves and wind up having our kids be put in a horrible financial situation of caring for you, either under your own home or under their roof. There is such a point, and I know we don't like to admit it, guys, there is such a point, in my opinion, where, I'm sorry, that dream that you wanted to chase, that opportunity's gone. And to try to get it is going to cost you immensely. The price will be too high. So perhaps it's, for the next life. There is nothing wrong, in my opinion, with saying, hey, guess what? It's a little too late to follow this dream. Because guess what? You can create other goals, other dreams that aren't going to financially bankrupt you and aren't going to get you 5 to 10 rejection letters a day. Could you imagine waking up to that? Holy cow. So yeah, he says he's overqualified for many entry. That's true. But I think the part, like I was saying, the part about where he's underqualified for jobs in his field, it's because they don't see him yet as having had professional experience. And don't forget, he's competing with the up-and-comers that are in their 20s just getting out of school. And he's also competing with the 30 and 40-year-olds who have held that professional position for years, if not decades. You have to look, you guys, when you guys want to chase your dreams, okay, people have to look at who is your competition. So oftentimes we wind up in financial debt, or even if it's not financial debt, maybe it's just emotional. Not everything runs around money, but the purpose of this channel, it kind of pretty much runs around money. But we have to understand it's not always financial, but we have to be willing to look at our competition. It doesn't matter how young you feel, how good you think you look for your age, yada, yada. It makes no difference. Who is your competition? And I personally, we'll go further through the article, but I don't think he looked at who his competition was as he was in his 50s going to school. Okay, so he tried removing some educational background. He believes many of his rejections are for positions that companies legally have to post, but to give internal candidates or recommendations. Yes, this is why I said to you probably half an hour ago, all right? I said to you, you must make personal contact with people. You must. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, we actually had a class. I took it, and it was, I don't know if they still offer it, but it actually taught you professional skills. It's how I learned to dress, to do a basic resume, to learn how to present yourself, to learn how to type on an IBM, type, okay? Remember, this is the 80s, okay? But I learned those skills. And I will tell you personally, I believe, I took lots of classes in high school. I remember very few, but I remember my business class and the instructor, Miss Betty Murphy. Lord rest her soul. I love her so much, but she passed away several years back. Okay. I remember that. That's how much that sticks with me. I remember where I learned these skills. I don't know if they're teaching this to students anymore. Maybe somebody else could put that in the comments too, because I don't teach high school. Do they teach these skills? Do they teach high school students how to write a resume? Do they teach you how to interview, how to dress? Just things to think about. Okay. So let's see. By the way, for those of you who are new to this channel, this is kind of how this channel works. Okay. We just kind of go with the flow. All right. Oh, so he believes many of his rejections are for positions that companies have to post. Yes. Yes. And the older he is trying to find a job, unfortunately, the higher the rejection rate is. That's why I was saying, guys, you got to use your personal skills to get a job. I used to get interviews, he says, for jobs where I beat out 600 people. Yes, but how old were you? Were you an alcoholic? I'm being honest, not being cruel. I'm being honest. Okay. How old were you? Were you an alcoholic? Okay. Where did you live? All of that stuff factors. I literally remember I could be gone from one job and I could have a job within, if 2 weeks passed, that was a long wait. Usually like a wait. Sometimes it was little as, okay, well, I'll just go down the street. And we're talking for office jobs. These weren't, I wasn't working at Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's or anything like that, but just professional, entry level professional jobs. It wasn't hard to get in my 20s. I think it would be hard now. Let's see. He says, now it's hard to get a job when you don't have a foot in the door to interview. Exactly. Again, AI, read your resumes. He also suspects that being Latino may have hindered his job search. Now, I skim this when I read it, so I have not read this word for word as I'm reading it with you word for word, okay? So let's hear about this. Once a company told him it wasn't accepting new applications, though they gave one to his wife who is white. He also used a shortened version of his middle name, Tony, on an application instead of Marciel, which increased his interview rate. Hey, this is something we don't like to think about, but your child's name will affect their interview. As I said here, their interview rate, your child's name. I'm not going to name names, but I'm just saying it's going to affect it. And that's why I've known people personally who changed their name when they became adults because they were entering the professional world and they didn't want a name that sounded like, they were still, little kids. In other words, they rejected the name that their parents gave them and said they needed a more professional name. I won't say whether it works or not because I've never done it, but I can imagine that the acceptance rate for your resume might actually be better. And not for a topic on this particular video, maybe for another one, who knows? I think they have done studies also on names of sending in resumes. I thought I watched this once. They sent in resumes and they used different ethnic names to see to see who would get callbacks. Same resume, different names, and they just wanted to see who would get callbacks. That'd be interesting. I'm not interested in it enough to put it on this channel, but maybe down the road. Okay. All right. Let's see here. So they gave one to his wife, who is white. All right. He added that because technology changes rapidly, he may be behind on the skills companies expect applicants to have, particularly with AI. Thank you. Exactly. Somebody wrote to me earlier today in the comments, and they asked if I would do a thing on AI, people losing their jobs to AI. I think they were asking specifically for white collar. It is something I will consider. Okay. That would probably be something that would take a while to do. So I don't know. If it's going to be done, it'll be done during the summer. Okay. But I will consider it. All right. Given that he lives about 30 miles from a city, he's focused on finding remote positions. Yeah, because he's out a bit far. So that again puts another roadblock between you and the employer. As you get older and you start looking at jobs, folks, we got to look at all the roadblocks, all of them. Oh, you live too far away. You can only do remote. Oh, you're in your 50s, late 40s even. Okay. All these things. Oh, you're not part of the corporate nepotism. In other words, you don't have family that already works there and stuff. Okay. There's a lot of roadblocks. Okay, moving on. If you haven't been employed, let me start that sentence again. He said, if you haven't been employed in a while, I can't magically snap my fingers and make it happen, Quinones said, noting employers may be skeptical of gaps in his work history. Okay. Let me change these. I've been looking at two screens doing this. All right. So let me go ahead really quickly. Okay, I'm going to go back to the main screen. I hope at least I look like I was reading it. I was on two screens. Give me just a second. All right. So here's the thing. Bottom line, 1,500 job applications. I'll be totally honest, knowing that he's had issues with alcoholism, not holding that against him, but it is a factor. Okay. History of alcoholism. He's in his 50s. I don't know enough about the minority, about him being Latino. I didn't feel there was enough evidence to say that is the reason. I mean, maybe they gave one to his wife because she looked professional. Maybe they gave one to his wife because she, I don't know, spoke better English. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the position was for or why they would pick one over the other. So I don't feel that there was enough information to say that it's because he's Latino. However, if he felt that that's what it was, okay, then his perception of that is what matters, and that's what he felt. So we will leave it at that. All right, folks. That was, how long was that? 29 minutes. Hey, that's not bad for a story that probably takes 3 minutes to read. Oh, don't forget also her $500K private school loan. Yes, $500,000. That's coming up. Probably either up here, or down here, or something like that. You guys have a great rest of your Monday night. See you later.